Okay, so I just got finished discussing with you guys my opinion of the Xbox reveal, the actual event itself, the press event. If you guys haven't seen that video, go ahead and check it out. There should be a link tied to this video, so you can just click the link and head over and watch it. This video, however, is going to be discussing post-event, the things that went on after the event that Microsoft held. So first and foremost, the Kinect. Man, the things that they are doing with this brand new Kinect are stunning. 1080p visual, the amount of things that they're tracking, from more joints to your facial animations to your heart rate. Imagine the type of games that they could come out with something like that. They have a ton of workout games on this device already. I mean, it could go all the way to the standpoint as a safety measure, even if it's not a workout game. So let's say you're playing a game like Dance Central, and it's saying, your heart is racing a little bit too fast. We recommend that you take a break. Now, they don't have to prevent you from playing or stop you from playing, but just something could just pop up on the screen just saying, because they're able to check your heart rate, hey, your heart rate is kind of high, you may want to take a break for a while. So, because nobody likes being told what to do, or should I say nobody likes being forced to do anything. So I wouldn't recommend that they force it on people, but just if they see that your heart rate is getting up there, they just shoot out, a recommendation. But another thing is in low lighting. Now, I've had a lot of people, when I've expressed how I think that's a nice feature of how it can track you now in low lighting, people were like, well, who uses their Kinect in the dark? Well, the thing is depending on where you have your Kinect set up at, you may be watching a movie. Some people, believe it or not, some people use these hand gestures. I even use hand gestures on my Kinect from time to time. If the controller is far away, or if I'm not unaware of what it is, where it is, things like that, or if I'm playing a game that's a Kinect game, I'm not going to pick up my Xbox controller to navigate the Kinect game. I'm already standing there. I'm just going to use the hand gestures to navigate through the game, through the menu system. The voice stuff, though, sounds a whole lot more improved than the way it is now. I took notice of how they really only had to say Xbox once, and that was to kind of trigger the Xbox to say, hey, I'm talking to you. So he said Xbox, and then he was like, go to TV, go back to game, go to movie. So he didn't have to say Xbox for each command. And anybody who owns a Kinect right now understands, you have to say Xbox before you do any of the commands on screen. You have to say Xbox, games, Xbox, go home. So I think that's pretty cool how they've improved the Kinect. Another thing that they were talking about, any of you guys who own Samsung Galaxy phones, you guys know the new feature that the Samsung Galaxy has, which is when your eyes go away from the camera, it knows you're not watching the video anymore and it pauses. Now, the Xbox doesn't do that. But what it does do is it can tell when you're actually talking to the system. So what it'll do is, if you're saying Xbox and you're talking to somebody else and it sees you're not looking at the camera, it knows that you're not talking to the Kinect if you're having a casual conversation regarding the Xbox. But if you, however, look back and it sees you looking in the direction of the Kinect, now it's assuming and now it knows that you're now talking to the Xbox. So I think little subtle items and things like that are pretty cool. But they showed a slew of other things. I mean, I can imagine you playing a horror game or any game like that, and it being able to detect that, send that back to the game, and maybe play around with that. There's a lot of different things they could do with this brand new Kinect. Like the PlayStation 3's Eye, the Kinect also can track the controller. If you move from one placement to another placement with the controller, if it's a split screen game, it'll split the screen so that it lines up with wherever the controller is. So I think that's pretty neat as well. Some other stuff that they talked about, and one of the things that kind of, in my opinion, I don't understand what was going on here, but how multiple executives were on 14 different pages when it came to the used games and always online, mainly always online. I mean, you have Major Nelson telling people that, there's not going to be an internet connection required. Then you have Phil Harrison telling people that is going to be 24 hours. Every 24 hours is going to have to check in. And then you have other executives that are saying, well, wait, we're going to discuss this more at E3. It's like you knew who were going to be your executives that were going to be interviewed. Did we not have a meeting that morning before the event? I mean, you have your PR representatives who are there. I find that like just crazy that these guys didn't have just, a brief walkthrough meeting that morning to say, hey, this is what it is. Because the questions people are going to ask. People are going to ask a question about used games, and they're going to ask a question about always online. That was just a huge issue, about a month or two ago? I mean, one of your executives got fired over it. So did you think people weren't going to ask you that question? I just find that just insulting to... I don't understand. That is like the main thing that I don't understand, how everybody wasn't on the same page. Now, if it was me and I was in control of everything, nothing in regards to games would have been shown and or talked about, because on their invitations they were strictly telling people at the beginning of the conference, games will be shown at E3 right now. This is just the unveil of the console and some of the things that it can do as far as our media goes. If I were in charge, we would have not talked about anything gaming. Any questions regarding the gaming side of things, I would have diverted that to E3. I would have said, that's an awesome question. Come and talk to us again after our press conference at E3. That's what I would have said. If this event is not going to be about games, then strictly no games. There shouldn't have been any trailers, nothing. Everything should have been media and the unveiling of the console. But, unfortunately, again, I don't know who is in charge of this whole thing, but it got, after the press event, that's when everything got out of hand. I mean, used games, again, I get the fact that they're not directly blocking used games, but they're trying to slow it down. And I get it. I understand it. They're trying to protect the publishers and developers. So, they're trying to do what they can to block the used game market. I get that. Now, there's a lot of people that don't like it. There's a lot of people that just can't get down with it. But it is what it is. That's the direction we're going in anyway. Once these consoles become fully digital, I mean, in my opinion, I think a lot of people are going to start downloading their games anyway. Again, that's just me. When you're telling me that I can start playing Call of Duty at 12:01 a.m. midnight, let's take a midnight launch for example. You go to GameStop for whatever midnight launch. I'm just using Call of Duty because that's just the god game right now. So you go to GameStop. You're standing in line. The doors open at 12:01. Now, depending on where you're at in line, you got to go inside, maybe finish paying off the game. They check you out. You get in your car. You got to drive home. Let's say that's about a half-hour process, right? The whole time you've been standing outside. Call of Duty typically comes out in November. Depending on where you live at, it's freezing. It's cold outside. While you're doing all of that, I'm already at home. The game's already been downloaded. Or depending on how I would prefer for them to, if you pre-order the game, once you pre-order the game downloads to your hard drive, and then it's just sitting there until 12:01, and then it unlocks, and then you can play it. I understand Sony and both Microsoft are doing it to where once it starts to install, at a certain point, you'll be able to play the game even while it's installing. I would prefer to just have the game already done and dealt with on my hard drive already, so I hope they allow you to do it that way. My understanding is in the UK, for the PlayStation, they're already doing it that way now. In the US, unfortunately, they're not. But while you're at the store wasting gas money, doing all that, at 12:01, while you're in line and they're just now opening the doors, I'm already playing the game. So the convenience of downloading games, now granted, not everybody has the internet connection for that, and I get it. But I personally think there are a lot of people who do have the internet connection to download a game. That's why I hope they allow you to pre-download it before the game actually comes out. But I really think a lot of people are going to start going digital anyway. So again, I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. But we'll see once these consoles launch. So, that's the used game stuff. And then the always online. Now, my understanding is that Steam and other PC sources do the same exact thing, where they check up it's not every 24 hours, it'll be every 2 to 3 days. I even read one service that does it once a week, just to make sure that the game is still tied to you and no one else has tried to install this game onto their hard drive. The thing about it, I think the reason why Microsoft is doing it every 24 hours is because you can continue to install this game. So that's why they have to check every 24 hours to make sure that, hey, you're not such and such, you don't have authorization to this game. So, because the way that it sounded like to me is that it'll check at the 24-hour mark. So a friend has within 24 hours to then install that game to their system before Microsoft rechecks and makes sure that game is only on that one ID. Because if they see it on multiple IDs, that second ID is like, no, you didn't register this first. This is registered by somebody else, and then you get kicked off. Now, I don't know if they'll delete your achievements that you may have earned as well, but all these details and more, they have to be talked about at E3. So that's, my thought of the post show, all the things that went on. It was very confusing for a lot of people. It's still confusing to this day, but at E3, hopefully Microsoft, or they better clean this up, or that will not be a good look for them. I'm DLB. Make sure you guys check out the rest of the videos. Add me on Twitter at DLB23, and check out the website, dlb-network.com.